Hey guys, what's up? It's Jimmy, and today we're going to be taking a look at 3 games very close to my heart. I've loved them my entire life, and without them I wouldn't be here talking to you guys about video games every day. So without further ado, let's begin. Today we're going to be taking a look at Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow for the Nintendo Game Boy. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow are the second best-selling Game Boy games of all time, second only to Tetris. But did you know, despite their success, they were almost never released? That's right, Game Freak's founder Satoshi Tajiri created Pokemon. It was inspired by his love of bug collecting as a child. The series was originally called Capsule Monsters. After many attempts to get Capsule Monsters published by Nintendo, the Big N was still hesitant to release the title and declined Satoshi of his requests. It was with the help of Shigeru Miyamoto that Satoshi's dream could be realized, and Nintendo released Capsule Monsters as Pocket Monsters Red and Green, and they were a huge hit. Later, an update of the two games was released. This was Pokemon Blue. It fixed a problem that the original Pokemon Red and Green had: the very ugly Pokemon sprites. After Blue was released, Yellow was also released to follow the storyline of the anime more closely. For the worldwide releases of Pokemon, we got Pokemon Red and Blue. These two were using Pokemon Blue's build. So there's your history lesson for today, folks. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow take place in the Kanto region. You play as Red, a young Pokemon trainer, and compete against your longtime rival Blue to be the best Pokemon trainer of all time. To do this, you have to take the Pokemon League Challenge and beat the 8 gym leaders scattered around the region. While on your journey, you encounter the nefarious Team Rocket that try to use Pokemon for their own evil deeds. Am I the only one that thinks that the Rocket sprites actually kind of look like Waluigi? Yeah, I figured I was. Your other goal as a Pokemon trainer is to collect data on all the Pokemon in the region for your Pokedex. There's 150 or more to see, and to be a Pokemon Master is your destiny. You start your journey in the town of Pallet. Professor Oak lets you choose one of 3 starter Pokemon. There's the Grass-type Bulbasaur, then the Fire-type Charmander, and the Water-type Squirtle. Or if you're playing Yellow version, you'll start out with a Pikachu, and it actually says its name. And in Yellow version, you could get the 3 starter Pokemon throughout the storyline of the game from various NPCs, just like in the anime. The game is very much like a rock, paper, scissors match. Each Pokemon type can be super effective or weak against certain types of attacks. For example, fire burns grass, grass absorbs water, water puts out fire. I think you get the idea. There are 15 types in the Generation 1 games. 2 new ones were introduced in Generation 2 to correct a flaw that the games had when it came to the power of certain types, specifically the Psychic type. In Generation 1, Psychic types were weak to only 2 types, Ghost and Bug, and almost every Bug-type Pokemon in the game had very weak stats in general, and the only 3 Ghost types in the game, Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar, had a Poison subtype tacked onto them. Apparently, Ghost was supposed to be immune to Psychic-type moves, but due to a programming error, this isn't the case, and thus because of the Poison subtype, Psychic moves are super effective against these 3 Pokemon, so basically, you're screwed. The graphics in the game are, well, a little... How can I say this without offending most of the world's population? I know, unique. The Pokemon in Red and Blue have weird-looking sprites. They got a nice facelift in Yellow version, though. It's not even their front sprites that bug me, really. It's their back sprites. They just look like a glob of pixels. But other than that, these games look really nice. One thing I love is how the colors change depending on the city or town you go to. Each color matches the town's name, which in turn is named after a color. While Red and Blue are in full black and white, and only really one color when played on the Game Boy Color, if you put them in a Super Game Boy, or in the Game Boy Tower, in the Stadium games, you can see them in full color, just how they were meant to be played. The music in these games is probably one of the best 8-bit soundtracks I've ever listened to. The battle themes are epic and exciting, and the route themes give you a nice feeling of adventure. And this all wraps up into a wonderful soundtrack that will punch you in the face with nostalgia. One main thing that caused the Pokemon craze was the collecting aspect of the games. You were always trying to catch each and every Pokemon. Each version had Pokemon the other one didn't, forcing you to link up with your friends using the Game Boy link cable for help completing the Pokédex, or buying both versions to trade with yourself. Either way, Nintendo makes a lot of cash. Another thing that made Pokemon a huge success was being able to raise up a team of Pokemon and battle against your friends, once again with the Game Boy link cable. All generations of Pokemon have a theme that they center around. Generation 1 focuses on furthering science and technology. Pokemon like Voltorb are lab experiments gone wrong. Bill accidentally fuses himself with a Clefairy, many Pokemon can be brought back from fossils, and then there's the story that everyone knows and loves, how scientists in the Pokemon Mansion managed to clone the legendary Pokemon Mew and created Mewtwo, a battling machine that completely dominated every Pokemon in the region. And that legendary Pokemon resides in Cerulean Cave, waiting for you to approach it for an epic battle. The Generation 1 games are actually the glitchiest Pokemon games. But even with these glitches, we still love them. In fact, they sometimes make the game a whole lot more fun. There are lots of glitches in the Generation 1 games, and I know for a fact I wouldn't be able to explain them all correctly. So, when this video is over, click here for a video all about the glitches in the first generation Pokemon games. Pokemon Red and Blue are some of the best video games of all time. For many people, these are their first video games ever. I'm one of these people. However, as much as I love these games, if you want to experience what the games are like, I suggest you look into Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green for the Game Boy Advance. Mostly because these are easier to find, and probably more accessible to play, seeing as many Pokemon fans nowadays probably have a Nintendo DS, which plays Game Boy games. Also because the remakes have a few new additions that overall make Red and Blue even better than they were, such as running shoes and post-game content. Now it's time for the tough part, my score of the games. I give Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow a final score of 9.5 out of 10. I can already hear people raging over here about how it's too high, and I can hear people over here raging about how it's too low. But you know what? It's my opinion, and I hope you respect that, and I'll respect yours if it's different from mine. My only complaints are the weird looking sprites for most of the Pokemon, and how the psychic typing is a little bit overpowered. Well, there you have it everyone, my review of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're new to my channel and you like what you saw, please feel free to hit the subscribe button on top of this video. I have a Facebook and I have a Twitter, and those links are down in the description below. Feel free to follow me on there for news about my channel and updates about future videos. Anyway guys, thanks for watching this video, and I will see you next time.